And so despite all of the trauma, despite all of the hardships, there's something magical and beautiful in that perseverance.
You're listening to With You Podcast, where we talk about real relationships and life transitions. I'm David.
And I'm Tara, and this season we'll be exploring marriage.
Yeah, we'll be hearing couples tell their stories from different ages, stages, and backgrounds.
And we all have a lot to learn from each other, so let's get started.
Sounds good. We are so excited to get to talk to some friends from Canada this episode, and we are here with Ricky and Emily, and we're going to get to hear their story a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll let you guys start by just telling us who you are, so you can each introduce yourselves and maybe tell us how long you've been married and what you do. Okay, Ricky has to think about that.
I can go first then.
Go for it, yeah. Ladies first, yeah. I'm a gentleman.
Perfect.
Well, I'm Emily, as was stated. I'm originally from Canada. We've been married for 6 years in May, right? Yeah, 6 years in May, and which I can't believe it's been that long already.
Mm-hmm.
Which for you guys maybe doesn't seem that long.
No, 6 years. It's hard to believe. It seems like we were just together with you when you were dating. So 6 years seems like a long time.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah, and what is it that you do there in Canada, Emily?
I'm a marriage and family therapist.
What about you, Ricky?
Oh, so I'm Ricky. I am the Ecuadorian kid. I'm originally from Ecuador, the city Quito. I did my studies in the US, and in master's, I met this beautiful woman right here, Emily, and she convinced me to move to the land of igloos, which I found out there's not that many igloos over here, like How I Met Your Mother said. So I'm a marriage and family therapist as well, and yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, because you've been married the same number of years as Emily.
Exactly. So. She took care of that question right there. Been together 8 years.
Yeah. There you go.
Coming up, and we've been married 6 years.
And you have how many kids now?
Two boys.
Two boys. And what are their?
One is almost 4, and the other one is almost 2.
Good. So you're getting out of that. Look at this, and you have to run because they're jumping off of something or putting something in someplace that's dangerous.
More or less.
Yeah.
It's a busy time. Yeah, good.
Our youngest one is a daredevil, so he.
The little one is.
Yeah, Teo. Yeah, he's a bit of a daredevil, so he's always jumping off something or. Yeah,
it's crazy years when you're chasing them all around. So we're gonna start talking about your relationship, but before we ask you kind of about your story and how you met, we always think it's interesting to hear what your view of marriage was before you even met each other. Kind of your models of married people in your lives, whether it was close family, friends, what shaped your idea of what marriage was, and was it something you were always thinking would be part of your future?
So we'll start with Ricky.
I saw a commitment. I saw something that you waited to have. It's something that you didn't rush to. I saw like life partners. I saw people that struggled and grew together. I saw someone that you could rely on and trust and feel comfortable and secure. I saw someone that you could team up and help grow and build the next generation.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a good vision that you had of what marriage was.
Yeah, it was. That was a good side of it.
How about the side that wasn't so good?
The part that wasn't so good that I thankfully was blessed to get to know more by the marriage and family therapy program at Wheaton was how much.
A little.
I love the little plug. We love little plugs for Wheaton College.
Yeah. So as I delved deeper into my family and the family of origin, I noticed how much their parents affected them. And I was able to reflect on some of the struggles that they were having as in a marriage came back from before. And that was healing for me. But the things that they struggled with, that was hard to witness growing up.
Well, and did you always want to get married? That was always something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I never saw myself as not being married. I always saw myself as being a husband and being a father. So I'm glad that I had the blessing of getting to this point. So yeah, I always saw myself as being married.
What about you, Emily? What were your models growing up?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I kind of asked that question is I fluctuated with my desire to get married.
Hmm.
So from like a very young age, I was like, well, that's just what you do, right?
Yep.
Everyone eventually gets married and has babies and should happen in your early 20s. And that's kind of the way it goes. And then I think high school hit and I was like, I don't want this. This seems like a very like repressive, like enclosed, like not a lot of freedom. I'm just going to be stuck doing one thing for the rest of my life.
Mm.
Why would I ever want to do that kind of view? And then I don't know. I think it was halfway through undergrad that started to shift, and I'm not really sure what it was. Maybe people are starting to pair off and get married, or in a Christian
Hmm.
private university that happens at a younger age.
Yeah, it does.
That's right.
So kind of more exposed to that's just something that people were doing and having amazing stories, and um, slowly starting to be the only single person kind of within the groups, right? Kind of always being the one that didn't have someone. It would always leave the get-togethers with like by myself kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think I started thinking about that and seeing more about how it could be like a bit more of a partnership, or like it wasn't such a narrow view of what marriage was or is, or how it was defined, or
Yeah.
those kinds of things. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what did you see from your parents, close family friends, aunts, uncles, neighbors, grandparents?
Well, I saw like, to go to the positive side, like I did see a lot of perseverance. Like my family has a lot of like war trauma coming out of the Second World War and being in concentration camps, and having trauma like very much a part of the marriage dynamic, and then that kind of being passed down and
Hmm.
seeing the themes there.
Hmm.
And so despite that, like nowadays, like being a marriage and family therapist, you see people kind of go their separate ways. It seems like a little bit easier when those like traumas come up or those major incidences come up. And so I see a lot of perseverance in that, in the relationship, which I think was like a good thing and a bad thing. The one I saw some trapped people, right? That
Hmm.
they were stuck together, focused only on being able to be together. There was no other option. And
Hmm.
therapy wasn't as much a thing for those generations either. So there was no way to work on it or expand. But then on the flip side, like especially now, as more conversations have opened up, like my grandparents just celebrated a 60th anniversary, and being able to celebrate, like, are we ever going to have those kind of milestones really in our culture anymore? So yeah, it's kind of, I think it had a dual take at different stages of my life.
Yeah, that's amazing, Emily. I like that you included all of that with those long marriages. Sometimes people have views of like, well, they must be lucky and they found just that perfect person and it's been happy all those years, and that's not realistic. And so taking a view of it can be a challenge and it isn't always pretty, but there's something beautiful when it lasts. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to talk about those difficult times. So thinking about marriages that are affected by concentration camps, by war. I know, like with my grandfather, didn't want to necessarily talk through those things. How did the messages around the perseverance, the messages around how they navigated the really difficult times in life get passed down to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was more of an observation because I can't remember, maybe in later life, like after, really digging down deep, it opened up more avenues for conversation. So I have been able to have more conversations about the struggles, and also like grandparents have opened up more about what it was like, the good things and the bad things, or the not bad things, the hard things
Yeah.
that were struggles. So it kind of turned into a conversation. But I think most of my life it's kind of been by osmosis.
Watching, yeah. And a
Yeah.
lot of why we ask this question is because we're getting to your personal story of the two of you, but we all carry this with us. We carry our background with us when we come into the time when we when we're looking for somebody or we find somebody. So we want to kind of move to that part. So I know you both moved to Wheaton College from other countries. And then this is where the story starts to happen. So tell us, tell us how you met.
I don't know where to begin.
I know.
First of all, I just want to acknowledge it was such a wonderful, beautiful, and scary journey to Wheaton. First of all, where I was able to meet Emily. There was a lot of uncertain things, financially, opportunity. And then I just remember the first time that I saw her, I thought she just looked so confident. I thought she looked very beautiful. I also said, the first thing that I said, she looks like a badass. And then I saw her. So I arrived late. They told me I was in the wrong class. So they walked me. I was walking with all my suitcases, and I went to the room full of future MFTers. And then I just say, "Hey, I'm Ricky."
Mine was like that. He bursts in while we're all very serious around the table, listening respectfully to our future professors. And then, yes.
I couldn't believe I was there. So I was so excited. I was so hyped. But yeah, that's how the first thing that
you made quite an impression.
Yeah. And then you said, "I'm never going to be," what was it that you said about me?
Yeah, his first impression was I was a badass. And my first impression was, no, never going to happen.
Yeah.
So we have this kind of your personalities coming out in the first
Yes.
experience of each other, of just like
I know.
the dynamic, the excited. I just love that about you, Ricky, that you're a passionate kind of person in most things, and just your excitement about Emily.
It's interesting how that embodies both of your personalities, just that initial meeting.
Yeah.
So so that was first impressions. So how did that relationship start to evolve?
It didn't. It was awkward in the beginning.
Oh, it was so awkward.
And first
you
off,
were very awkward.
I was very awkward. I'm not going to lie. I can't sugarcoat it. Can't make it sound in my favor. But in the first, I hang out with another group of people. So we did our own thing at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then
I do remember always trying to set Ricky up with people. Like I would send girls his way when we would be talking about dating. I'd be like, "Oh, have you thought about Ricky? Like, he seems, nice. You should go for him."
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So you thought he was worth promoting.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was fun, creating community, making friendships. And then how we started to get to know each other more was a study group. Was it a study group?
Yeah, it was a study group.
It was a study group. So we would meet and have breakfast together.
Trying to dissect Broth and Brenner.
Exactly. So for those that know, you know. Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. But I just made it to the group. Like, I think you already had your group set. And I think I was with another classmate. We asked, and then you made some room or something.
You were
so I almost didn't make it.
Another late ad, huh?
Yeah. Another late ad, yeah.
Just barely showing up.
Yeah, that's a theme. That's a theme. Like, intentionally or unintentionally, yeah. Yeah.
So you got to know each other studying and in class and helping each other out, whether it's studying or trying to find dates for each other. And then how did it progress?
So let's talk about the awkward one, the awkward breakfast. So
there was, so I would have everyone over and I would make breakfast for them and then we would study. So Ricky showed up early one time and I thought, okay, he's the only one I haven't really had a deep conversation with in our entire cohort. So I wanted to make an effort and, get to know him more. It was the most awkward conversation.
It was so awkward.
I would ask him a question and he'd give a one-word answer. And then the conversation would be over.
But then I was like, if she wanted to know, she would ask following up questions. I answered her question.
This would become a theme in our
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And I thought that, if he wanted to talk about it, he would expand. But a one-word answer means, no, thank you.
So what do you think this was? Was this personality, culture, or nervousness, or what do you think that was about?
I think it was part of my personality, maybe nervousness too. I'm usually the one that get people to talk, and I'm the one that leads the conversation.
Oh, you didn't like this.
I enjoy it, And both because it's a protection thing that I realize that I do. So if I don't think that people are interested in me, I don't offer of myself as much. So I need follow-up questions. And I'm learning, I'm getting better at that. But that was uncomfortable for me. But for you, you have kind of similar in terms of people getting people to talk, but usually people just talk and they don't. They just keep talking.
I think it's mostly a personality thing. I don't think it's a cultural thing. Or like maybe family culture.
Family, yeah.
Your family has some traits of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and my family also has some. If you don't want to talk about it, you just say a little answer and then move on.
And then case closed.
Yeah, and that's how we kind of interpret too, right? So how we go about interacting in relationship and how we make meaning of the way people interact with us really comes from that default of the family we grew up in and the experiences we have. And it can lead to some problems when maybe the way you're making sense of it versus the way Ricky's making sense of it is very different and you miss each other. So from the beginning, you had this effort to have a deep conversation and you guys missed each other.
Yeah, I think already, there's some hopeful notes here because starting out awkward, a lot of people would kind of already write it off as this is not a good connection. But we know you're married with a couple kids, so things might have gotten a little better after that.
Those are spoilers. Don't tell people. Oh, yeah, we already talked about that.
Well, and see, that's when you guys gave in because I don't think this would have happened. Well, I don't know. It wasn't really heading.
You accelerated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Okay, good. Yeah, we don't want to take any credit or blame. It's just we're good at being accelerants.
So tell us how that works.
Yeah, so pretend we don't know the story, and tell us the part where you met this weird couple.
Super weird and great couple. Yeah, you gave the platform. So one of the things that I really appreciate from my time there is there was wonderful people that included international students into their home. So it was Thanksgiving one time.
American
Thanksgiving, which I found that it's different than
different.
Yeah,
that's really important.
Really important. I learned that.
So keep going, Ricky.
Yeah, no problem. So it was Thanksgiving. Everybody was leaving. Campus was a little bit of a ghost town, and we got an invite to Thanksgiving. It wasn't just both of us. It was a group of people. So it wasn't that obvious that you were trying to hook us up.
We were not. We were not.
Yeah. We do not use the program or any sense of compassion to try to hook people up.
Full disclosure, yes, I agree with that. I approve that.
So we were that couple. We invited various international students that didn't have a place to go as the campus got quiet to come hang out and have a meal together.
Yeah,
and
it was wonderful to be part of a family then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we had somewhat little ones still, teenagers running around. So it's kind of fun to kind of be out of the context of school and in a different context. So you're in this different context. You're sitting at these strangers'
learning
dinner table.
Probably your first time having our American stuffing, right? You don't eat that in Ecuador.
We don't eat that.
Sausage stuffing.
Yeah. So it was good, to be honest. Stuffing is not my thing, but I remember that night I actually enjoyed the stuffing.
So you guys come over for dinner, and what happens then?
Making a shake butter.
Oh yeah, you made a shake butter. That was true.
Oh yeah,
I forgot of
that's
that. Yeah,
right.
We made everybody make their own butter.
Yeah, so
at the table.
I learned this when our kids were in preschool. One of their preschool teachers had this little thing where they would put, was it cream? Cream in a jar, and you keep shaking it enough until it turns into butter. And so it's fun with a group. You just pass the jar around and shake the butter, right?
So that was a fun party game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have like these fun mementos. I still have, you made like this very cute menu or with the verse and the order of what was going to happen. And you gave us like this little fake pear with our names on it. So I still have those.
Wow, that's amazing.
That was like a very meaningful thing for me. So yeah, it was really good. Apart from the opportunity with Emily. That was a very meaningful time for me. I just wanted to let you know.
It
Yeah.
was the pair that did it.
It just the pair.
It was
Yeah,
that little
big
silver pair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And how about for you, Emily, sitting around the table, kind of about you and Ricky? What happened next? You made butter.
We made butter. We were like, my host family, I lived with a family when I was in my roommates. Everybody was out of town, like literally everybody. And so I knew that someone had lent me a car, and I knew that Ricky didn't have a ride. So that's when we started kind of communicating and coordinating to get to your place.
Carpooling.
Carpooling. And then apparently he said I was so flirty that night, which I do not remember.
Was. I think she was.
But apparently I was. And then after Thanksgiving, like it was just such a wonderful time, very easy, relaxed. You said more than 2 words in one sentence to me.
But that's true. That's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my awkwardness got away. I was able to talk, and we just lost track of time. And I just wanted to continue getting to know her and talking. And after that awkwardness, I just felt like this connection and understanding. Like it was pretty awesome. Yeah.
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 What were some of the things that, as that was kind of unfolding and you were spending more time having the non-awkward conversations, what drew you to each other? What was kind of the connecting things for you?
The series Chuck. That was our excuse to semi-date. Now that I look back on it, we got together because we like this series called Chuck. Mm-hmm. And that's how we would find time together to just watch the series, to talk a little bit more.
Yeah, that was part of it. So before Thanksgiving happened, then before Christmas, I suddenly had this sinking feeling like, oh crap, now we're not going to be able to be friends. It's going to change everything. We're never going to speak to each other again. Yeah, so I left Christmas with the sinking feeling that I would lose him as a friend. And so I went over to my Oma's house, my dad's mom. I didn't even talk about guys at all, but she suddenly took me aside and she said, like, Emily, I don't know where this is coming from, but, don't think about logistics. Don't panic about, things happening. Just look at the person's heart, basically is what she said.
Well, you got to listen to Oma.
You have to. Yeah. I don't know why that still makes me emotional, but and I wasn't even thinking about him. Like he wasn't even on my radar in that way, like in a romantic way. But it suddenly like clicked when I saw him again after Christmas.
I felt that click.
Yeah.
I felt that click. Like we were talking all the time, texting all the time. And I was terrified that I would start getting awkward. When I like girls, I start shutting down and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was worried that things were growing. So when I saw her after Christmas, I don't know how to explain it, but there was just something that clicked, or this comfort.
Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like we knew. We didn't say anything.
We weren't official yet. We didn't say anything, but the connection was still there. It was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then how long was it as you continued to kind of grow together to then thinking about the long-term commitment?
So it was during the Chuck, actually.
Okay.
So
man, we got to
thinking about it.
We're gonna have to watch this.
I know. What is this Chuck? What is this?
Powerful show.
Powerful. Hilarious. I wouldn't say powerful. But anyways, I've been thinking about it. I like this girl. I want to go for it. And I just lunge forward from my chair and I slam on the pause button. Mm-hmm. And I said, my cojones are in my throat.
Wow.
I know how nervous I am right now, but I really want to pursue something more. I want to pursue something more to that effect. Mm-hmm. And then you said, what was the word that you said? That is yes, but you said it's not yet.
What did I say again?
I'll think about it.
That doesn't sound like yes.
Yeah. And he took it as a yes. Yeah. He got so excited. He was like,
I mean, there's hope.
It's not a no.
It's not a no, exactly.
But I felt like he was so excited. I didn't feel like I could correct him because I felt like I wanted, a couple days to think about it or something, but I just never corrected him. So I never said yes until he actually proposed.
Yeah. There you go.
And how long was it from kind of slapping Chuck stop and then proposing? What's the time there?
A year and like 3 months.
Yeah, a year and 3.
We got together February 13th in 3 days, and then we got engaged on May 10th.
Yes.
The next year.
Yeah, the next year. Yeah.
Very cool. And how did you do that? Did Emily or did you propose?
The marriage or the official relationship?
Proposed marriage.
The proposal.
Marriage. We're wanting to hear the proposal story.
So I found the song that I wanted to propose to, and I had done these.
You had that song under your belt since you were like young, right?
Yeah. I really like this song. I was thinking about how to propose. So I did some huge flashcards with the lyrics of it, but translated into English. And I carried those flashcards because your family and my family were there for graduation week.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't find the right time where I would miss it, or I wouldn't find you, or I hadn't talked to your dad. So I was to the last minute. My brother had to leave. And right before we had to take him to the airport, Emily was in the bathroom. So I started blasting the music. She comes out confused. And then
I literally, like in that bathroom visit, remember looking in the mirror and being like, I'm so glad nothing important's going on today. Because it was like after graduation, sweatpants, like just, yeah.
So sweatpants and music getting blasted into your bathroom. So now,
then you came out, and then I had the lyrics. You were reading through it. Then the song was all done. I went on one knee. I said, "Do you want to marry me?" And then when she said yes, I got so excited I forgot to put the ring on her finger. So I just jumped up and gave her a hug. Yeah. It was very exciting, and it was with a lot of our family present. Not all of it, but both of our families were present. My family from Ecuador, your family from Canada. We were in Illinois.
That part was important to us.
That was very important.
Yeah.
So
having your family support both of you and kind of get to know both of you and be part of that's beautiful. And now,
and especially because they were a part of us forming a relationship, that dynamic was kind of weird because it happened away from our family of origins, and so it was really cool that they could be a part of the like official. Yeah, we're doing this kind of piece.
And even in that, I just remember there was this beautiful story of, for some reason, Ian went to Ecuador. He would always go to do some trainings to Colombia. And just this year that we started dating,
2 months after dating,
2 months after dating, he went to Ecuador.
And that's Emily's dad that you're talking about.
That's Emily's dad, yes, exactly. Yeah. So Emily's dad was able to hang out with my family, with my parents and 2 of my brothers.
Yeah.
And I find it so sweet because both my parents and your dad get teary just talking about that and how they felt connection and how they felt like it.
Reassurance.
Yeah, reassurance. Yeah. They weren't able to be part of how this began, how it grew, but somehow they met, somehow they talked and they connected. And it's such a meaningful thing. Every time your dad talks about it, like I think it's very beautiful how everything was orchestrated for us to be together.
Yeah.
I love remembering all these things.
Yeah, I can see that that's really special for you guys. And we love that too, because we always talk about the fact that a marriage is not just about 2 people. It's involving all of your families, and it sounds like they're in support and they're connected, and that's really cool. So we kind of want to move on to now that we're married. You got married in Canada. Yeah. So you had some decisions to make. We could spend a whole podcast just talking about that process, I'm sure, because you're blending a lot, of your family backgrounds and having to make some big decisions. But, now that you've been married for 6 years, you've had a lot more relationship experience and learned a lot about yourselves and each other. So we're kind of interested, and we ask everybody this because I think it's the most important thing about marriage is the challenging times. How do you deal with that? So I'm sure you've had some things that haven't been easy in the last 6 years, and maybe some things that you don't see eye to eye on, parenting or whatever. So maybe you can think of some times that have been hard. It doesn't have to be super specific, but how do you navigate that? What have you learned about each other and how to get through that and stay connected?
Great question. Yeah.
Mhm.
You have full permission to bring any topic that comes to mind. Yeah.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. Thank you.
You want to bring up?
I don't know.
Well, and it can be general too. I mean, it's just acknowledging that things don't just always go smoothly. And so that's what a lot of people worry about marriage. Like, what about when conflict comes up? How does that work? And how do we blend our styles? So when those things do happen, what works for you for how you decide, when you're making a big decision together that maybe you both don't see the same way or, a disagreement on it could be small things to big things.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm learning and in the process of learning, I'm learning at saying what I want and being clear about my emotions and when I'm hurt. So one of the things that I used to do that I'm trying to get better at is that when I would get hurt, I would kind of shut down and I would withdraw
And smile.
and smile. So one of my coping
Smile.
mechanisms, my mouth and my eyes were disconnected. So I would
Yeah.
smile and act like everything was okay. And I would become very quiet and I wouldn't either be aware of what happened or I would avoid it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that did cause like big emotions for me because I felt sometimes some resentment. Maybe, why don't you see me?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you notice?
Mhm.
So that was hard in the beginning for me,
Yeah.
Mhm.
just transitioning from getting to know myself a little bit better
Hmm.
and knowing that part of me more in the context of marriage.
And I think it's still a challenge because
Mhm.
I don't do the validating thing well. Like he's amazing at it, but I don't do that very well. Like it takes me to have, like, I have to really, really be thinking and focusing and in the right space to do it. I think I'm getting better, but
You
Yeah.
are getting better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do
Yeah.
that's not my natural go-to, even though I talk about that all the time in therapy, but for myself, that's not my go-to.
So what is your go-to, Emily? So Ricky's kind of pulling back and kind of inward, and validating helps when you guys have really kind of good navigating of that. What's your go-to in times of difficulty and struggle?
Yeah, I think it's morphed because that was actually one of the big challenges that came up when you were talking, Tara, about like how I would handle when anything big would come up is I would completely shut down, silence, like stone face, absolutely no response. And I yeah, I think that would make you kind of freak out. Like I literally wouldn't respond. He'd be talking at me and I wouldn't say anything and I would just sit there. Definitely family of origin stuff there. But he like was so beautiful, like talking about, validation and presence. Like he totally changed that for me, at least in this context. Maybe not always
Yeah.
in outer context, but in this context, like he literally sat with me. I think in the beginning it would be for hours, like if we had time. Like I would be silent for hours and he would just sit there. And not a lot of people would do that.
Hmm.
So I really think that's been such a gift for me because now that sort of has been lifted. And now maybe I go more the opposite. I'm just super vocal about my feelings. Sometimes it's not fair and it's not just. And then he shuts down and then I yell at him to be like, no, that was not kind of me to say. You have to say something.
And that was in the beginning. I'm
Yeah.
learning to be angry. I'm learning to be okay with being angry. But yeah, you've given me permission for that.
Yeah.
It's
I think, if we've been giving each other permission, I think that's
Mhm.
been helpful.
it's so beautiful to see the struggle, right? I think sometimes we're afraid of the struggle, and these 6 years you've been able to over time be okay with the struggle and
Mhm.
find ways to do it that you trust each other. And I think that gives hope in the hardship, right? The
Mhm.
worst kind of where the hope isn't in the hardship is when we shut down or when we don't engage, because that's when it gets scary. And you both have kind of leaned into that. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love it. It's so reassuring to have those big moments of emotion, and then to be able to reconnect and have that reassurance and the security in the relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one other thing that I think is really helpful, because we're talking with people at lots of different stages of marriage, and so you guys are in the kids, having young kids, being married 6 years. What's a piece of advice you have for people coming up behind you? You know, those that are engaged or only married a few years, or married and don't have kids. Um, Kind of, what have you learned, and what would you tell them?
That's a big responsibility of a question. Yeah.
Well, it's easier to start with maybe what you've learned. What's been surprising, or what have you learned about marriage itself or yourself in this relationship?
Yeah, I guess I didn't know how it could be like an avenue of really getting to know yourself, if that makes sense. Like,
You mean like marriage is a mirror?
At times,
kinda,
yeah.
Yes.
but that the other person wants to be there for you, and you can hear some family of origin stuff coming out there too, but that they want to be there for you, that they want you to, grow and do better and get in touch with those things, and are like a, yeah, I guess maybe like a reflection surface sometimes to help you get there,
Mhm.
and that they don't tire of it, right? Like that it just, because sometimes, like for me, like I process when I'm a verbal processor, and I kind of just circle sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, why the hell are we still talking about this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's always like, he doesn't care. Like he'll still be there and with me, and he'll validate it. And it's so powerful because suddenly something clicks or changes, or it's okay all of a sudden. Yeah. So I didn't know it could be so powerful in that way of like self growth, self discovery, like, and then feeling so close to someone.
Mm.
Think I didn't know that was possible. Um, so that's a big learning, I think.
Yeah, don't be afraid to lean into the struggle, into the conflict, into the darkness. One of our songs for our marriage was Broken Together from Casting Crowns, if anybody knows who that is. And just your brokenness doesn't push you apart. It has opportunity of
Mhm.
growing and strengthening your relationship if you're not afraid to dive in there with a person that you trust.
Mm.
And thankfully, I had someone like Emily that I could go to those places for my sake, for her sake, for our sake. So don't be afraid to have those hard discussions, to be completely honest. Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't wait.
Mm.
Don't wait down the marriage to bring up something that happened in the past, something you struggle with. Just if you trust someone and if you see yourself with that person long term, you should start leaning into that so you can find a way to grow together
Mm.
in that.
Mhm.
That
Yeah, and learn at least something super powerful for me is learning to be okay with anger, and
Yes.
like Ricky allows me to be angry and then it leaves, instead of feeling like I have to push that aside. And even if it's not justified, then we talk about it. But um and me learning to be okay with anger, that it doesn't become about the other person. Sometimes anger, just that person's experiencing anger, and that's okay. It's not because the other partner is a terrible person. They're just having anger, and
Yeah.
that's all right. So that's been learning how to do that, I think, is so
A-
powerful.
And just, I think that what you said at the end there is exactly what couples feel. It's easy just to shut down and have to focus
Bulldoze through.
on
Yeah.
Yeah.
what the daily, like keeping kids alive, keeping them fed, keeping your jobs. There's a lot of keeping that
Yeah.
then is hard to lean into being with each other. And you
Mhm.
you gave really a good word that way.
Yeah. A lot of the families that we know are who are in that stage, and I remember very acutely being in that stage with small children, how very all-consuming it is. So it's interesting to hear from people, what are ways that you find to stay connected to your relationship? Because it can be put on the back burner for many, many
Mhm.
years. It's very easy to go years before you realize that you're kind of losing the connection. So have you guys found some ways to tune in to each other in this busy stage?
Yeah, I think, well, Ricky has a really good gauge for that, and not on purpose, I don't think.
What do you mean?
Well, I so
Oh.
easily get distracted, and I can be that tunnel vision of like, okay, house clean, job done, paperwork, all that kind of stuff.
I want
Check, 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 check.
connection.
He has sort of like a little
I,
tantrum.
well, my emotional tank is empty. I need it to be refilled.
No, it's good. It's a good tantrum. It reminds me.
Well, I mean, and that's interesting because it sounds like it's at the top of his list of priorities,
Yeah.
and we can, and sometimes, especially I think as moms, because some of your duties are just your brain is more filled with the day-to-day things, can forget to put that at the top.
Yeah. But I am so grateful that he does. Like it does, I think, keep us connected. And it's never enough, but at least keeps us going, I think. And it's good that we know that it's never enough.
He's shaking his head
Yeah.
no to say it's never enough.
Never enough. I just want more.
Yeah.
Well, and that time together it's important to prioritize, and it's important to realize it's going to look different at different stages. So, like in your dating stage, it was Chuck. Now
and dancing.
And dancing.
Yeah.
But with young kids, it might be something different, right? And you have to kind of be creative, I think.
Well, and I don't know if you guys follow the John Gottman stuff, but they have things out now about the micro date. I think that's a good thing to hold on to for parents in your stage. It's like just the idea that it doesn't have to be a grand thing and get a babysitter and go out for a fancy dinner. It's just like, do we have 10 minutes to sit together with, a cup of coffee and say, how are we doing together? Or, do something, the small things for each other, even to take a small amount of time to check in.
Well, and when we had young kids, I think it was kind of tossing you the car keys and say, the date was just space.
Sometimes the connection is to send somebody out of the house by themselves.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to look different when you're cued into both what your need is and what your partner's need is, and being able to do, little things, big things. I mean, our dates were walks.
They still are.
During the teenage years, because there's so many little ears all around that it was the only space we could
to have a private
talk.
conversation. We would just go for a walk, and you talk the whole time, or you walk, in comfortable silence, and it was definitely a way to connect.
I know the young kids' marriage time is a bit of a blur to me.
Yes. Yeah. All these hard times, you'll forget them.
Yeah. So, and that's a coping strategy.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
like childbirth, right?
Yeah, and it's back
exactly.
It's back to the perseverance of we're in this for the long haul, and there's going to be rocky times, there's going to be great times, and we can't hold on to either one too tightly. We kind of have to go with the flow and persevere.
That's a good way of saying that.
Wow, it's amazing. You guys left us with some really great stuff. We're going to have to listen back. And I think it's going to be really helpful to a lot of people listening and starting in their relationships. And I love that you really focused on hardships, but in the context of trust. And leaning into that with somebody you trust is a very different experience than with somebody you don't, right? So you guys have that and are building that, and that's part of a beautiful relationship. And we love seeing you this far down the road. We're so honored that we got to be there at the beginning, and it's so fun to see it develop over time. And
we're encouraged by how you're committed to each other, how that commitment comes from your faith. And that you were willing to share this with us today. So we're thankful. We're thankful for you, and look forward to hearing maybe in 6 or 7 years, hearing where you are then.
We'll do a follow-up.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks for being with us today. We hope you'll get more information about everything we talked about today on our show notes page on the website.
I was going to say, where could we find the show notes page?
withupodcast.com.
Awesome.
And also, while you're at it, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and let us know what you're thinking.
Can we ask that it's only good reviews?
You can ask anything you want.
Okay, leave good reviews. We would love to hear from you and respond. So
thanks for listening.
see you next time.